Jared Davis was tired of feeling like a man without a home. Raised in London by African-American parents who had left the United States in the wake of the civil rights movement, Jared had grown up caught between worlds. He was too American to be fully British, and when he visited the US, he felt out of step with his peers there too. In London, he often felt like an outsider, navigating subtle forms of racism and cultural misunderstandings while trying to carve out his identity. He found solace in music, books, and the stories his parents told about their activism, but the sense of disconnection lingered. But it was Africa, the place of his ancestors, that he knew almost nothing about. At 32, he decided it was time to change that. After years of researching his family history, Jared had traced his lineage to a small village near Cape Coast in Ghana. Armed with an ancestry map, a sense of curiosity and a restless heart, he booked a one-way ticket to Accra, determined to reconnect with his roots. The air in Accra was humid and thick with the scent of fried plantains, exhaust fumes, and sea salt. Jared stepped off the plane, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervousness. His first stop was a guest house in Osu, a vibrant neighborhood known for its nightlife and street food. The streets buzzed with activity, and the sound of high-life music spilled out of every corner. It was overwhelming, but Jared was determined to take it all in. At the guest house, he met Ama, a young woman in her late 20s who worked as the manager. Ama had a warm smile and an easy laugh, and her energy was infectious. She offered to help Jared navigate the city and even arranged for a driver to take him to Cape Coast. "You're lucky," Ama said, her Ghanaian accent lilting. "Many people don't know where their ancestors came from. You must feel blessed." "I do," Jared replied, though he wasn't entirely sure how to describe the mix of emotions he felt. He was grateful but also overwhelmed by the weight of expectation, his own and that of the ancestors he was trying to honor. Ama's eyes twinkled. "Just don't let anyone trick you into paying extra because you're a returnee," she said with a laugh. "People here can smell it a mile away." Jared chuckled, appreciating her candor. Ama's warmth made him feel more at ease, and for the first time since arriving, he felt less like an outsider. The drive to Cape Coast was long but scenic, with lush green landscapes stretching endlessly on either side of the road. Jared's driver, Kojo, regaled him with stories about the region's history and culture. When they arrived at the village, Jared was struck by its simplicity. Mud brick houses with tin roofs, children playing soccer in the dusty streets, and elders sitting under baobab trees, their laughter echoing in the afternoon sun. The village chief, an elderly man named Nana Kofi, welcomed Jared with open arms. He had been expecting him after Ama had called ahead to arrange the visit. The chief's warmth put Jared at ease, and soon he was surrounded by villagers eager to hear his story. As he shared his journey, Jared felt an unexpected connection to these strangers who shared his bloodline but had lived such different lives. It was during this visit that Jared met Essie. She was the village schoolteacher, a fiercely intelligent woman with striking features and a quick wit. Jared noticed her immediately. She had a quiet confidence that drew him in. After the formal introductions, Essie offered to show him around the village. "You'll get lost if you try to wander on your own," she said, a hint of teasing in her voice. Jared smiled. "I'll take your word for it." Over the next few days, Jared and Essie spent a lot of time together. She showed him the school where she taught, the market where the villagers traded goods, and the old slave fort that loomed over the coast, a stark reminder of the painful history that had brought Jared's ancestors to the Americas. Essie's knowledge and passion impressed Jared. She spoke candidly about the challenges facing the village, from limited resources for education to the encroachment of modernity on traditional ways of life. But she also had a deep love for her community and a vision for its future. "We have to find a balance," she said one evening, as they sat by the shore, watching the waves crash against the rocks. "We can't hold on to the past so tightly that we stop moving forward, but we also can't forget where we come from." Jared nodded, her words resonating deeply with him. "That's why I'm here," he said, "to understand where I come from. But now that I'm here, I realize it's more complicated than I thought." Essie looked at him thoughtfully. "It always is." As Jared and Easy grew closer, Jared felt torn between his growing feelings for her and the weight of his journey. He had come to Ghana to connect with his roots, not to fall in love. Yet, he couldn't deny the bond they were forming. Complicating matters was the reaction of some villagers, who were skeptical of Jared's intentions. Though many welcomed him warmly, others saw him as an outsider who could never truly understand their struggles. One afternoon, while helping Essie organize supplies for the school, Jared overheard a conversation between two elders. He had come to Ghana to connect with his roots, not to fall in love. Yet he couldn't deny the bond they were forming. "These returnees come with their money and their big ideas," one said. "But do they really care about us? Or are they just here to ease their guilt?" The words stung, though Jared knew they weren't entirely unfounded. He'd always been aware of his privilege, but hearing it voiced so bluntly made him question whether his presence was truly welcome. When he mentioned it to Easy later, she sighed. "Change is hard for people," she said. "They're not used to seeing someone like you, but don't let that discourage you. You have a good heart, Jared." That's what matters. Despite Essie's reassurance, Jared couldn't shake his doubts. Was he trying to force a connection that didn't truly exist? And what about Essie? Was it fair to pursue a relationship with her when he wasn't sure how long he'd stay in Ghana? One evening, as they walked along the beach, Jared decided to address the tension between them. "Essie, I care about you," he began, "but I don't want to make promises I can't keep. I don't know what my future looks like yet." Essie stopped and looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I know," she said softly, "and I'm not asking you to make any promises. But I also think that sometimes we have to live in the moment and trust that the future will take care of itself." Jared smiled, relieved by her honesty. He took her hand, and for the first time he allowed himself to hope that maybe, just maybe, they could make it work. Over the next few weeks, Jared threw himself into village life. He worked with Essie to raise funds for the school, using his connections back in London to organise a charity drive. He also spent time learning about the culture and history of the region, building relationships with the villagers, and earning their trust. Through it all, his bond with Essie deepened. They shared late-night conversations under the stars, laughter over shared meals, and quiet moments of reflection by the sea. Jared began to feel a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. But he also knew that his journey wasn't over. His time in Ghana had given him a new perspective on his identity, but it had also raised new questions. Who was he beyond the labels of African American or British? And what did it mean to truly belong? When the time came for Jared to leave the village, it was bittersweet. He promised to return, though he didn't know when. As he said goodbye to the villagers, he felt a pang of sadness, but also a deep sense of gratitude for the experience. Essie walked him to the edge of the village, her hand clasped in his. "This isn't goodbye," she said firmly. "Just a pause." Jared smiled, pulling her into a hug. "I'll be back," he said, "and when I do, I'll be ready to make this work." As he boarded the bus back to Accra, Jared looked out at the village fading into the distance. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing for certain. Love had a way of crossing borders, geographical, cultural, and emotional. And in that, he had found a piece of himself he didn't know was missing. Arriving in London, Jared felt a renewed sense of purpose. The city, with its familiar grey skies and bustling streets, no longer felt quite so isolating. He stayed connected with Essie through late-night calls and video chats, their conversations bridging the physical distance between them. They shared updates about their lives, dreams, and plans for the future. Jared also threw himself into his work, using the lessons he had learned in Ghana to foster a deeper connection with his own community. He began organising events that celebrated African culture and heritage, sharing his experiences and encouraging others to explore their roots. Though thousands of miles apart, Jared and Isi continued to nurture their bond. Their love, like his journey, was a testament to the power of resilience, trust, and the enduring search for belonging. For Jared, home was no longer a single place, but a tapestry woven from the people and experiences that shaped him. A tapestry that now included Essie and the village he had come to cherish.